This video is a continuation of the first ever Bowser's Inside Story video I ever made, where I talked about the main areas inside Bowser. There was only 5 of them, and it kind of split each of them up into different areas. So I guess this video now is talking about each mini-game inside of Bowser. So there's only 6 of them, which isn't that much, but I gotta say, ranking these was really weird, because most of the time it's kind of like a bell curve if I actually put every single one in a tier list. But no, it's basically, there's trash ones and there's really good ones, which was really weird. But either way, I still got a ranking out for you guys, so let's get started. But before we start, I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break hits, so I'd really appreciate it if you did subscribe, or you tell a Mario RPG fan to subscribe. Of course, I'd also appreciate that. And also, I just want to point out that my last video ranking the Bowser's Inside Story bosses got 1,000 views in 2 days. You guys are ridiculous. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate it. And if this video even gets close to that, I'd be really impressed. But other than that, let's actually get started with the video. I despise the nose deck minigame. It's just such an annoying minigame to play, and I really don't like it. And it's for one reason and one reason alone. Before we talk about the main negative, I do want to talk about the positives here. Or the one positive. I think that it was a unique concept, and it definitely could have worked. And the way I'm saying it is because I think if we're taking out everything about it, just the layout of the minigame, I think it was a good idea. Bowser breathes in pollen and then used Mario and Luigi to ram the pollen into each of these bumps, and every single one turns red. Once that actually happens, then one of them just randomly comes out super infected, and you have to ram Mario and Luigi into it. That's a good concept, and not only did the pollen just randomly change to blue, the blue pollen actually damages you. Again, it was a good concept, but it was ruined by one thing and one thing alone. But the main reason for that is going to be explained in a very overdramatic manner, and it's going to be going into a comparison. So I compare Partners in Time and Bowser's Inside Story a decent amount, because obviously they're both made for the DS, and I mean, most people say that Partners in Time is worse, but I actually think that Partners in Time is better for a decent amount of reasons. But one reason is I think that Partners in Time has great controls, especially for 4 party members, and Alpha Dream didn't know that the stylus actually existed. But for Bowser's Inside Story, the stylus was just shoved in for random places, which was not enjoyable. The main thing that I think of, though, just the main thing that I think of when I think of the stylus in this game is the nose deck. The stylus completely removes any enjoyment from the nose deck, because you're having the worst controls that you could possibly have for this minigame. Trying to use your finger, for me personally, because I lose my stylus, or a stylus to just try to just move. Use a freaking pen to try to direct Mario and Luigi in the right direction. Guess what? It's very annoying to control, because it's not very accurate, especially because Mario and Luigi are always going to be vertical. It just doesn't feel very responsive, and it's very hard to get used to. And again, for me personally, I don't even use a stylus, but I even tested it with a Wii U gamepad stylus, and guess what? I still struggled with it. I still had a hard time trying to line up each pollen piece, or even just trying to ram myself into the big bump just normally. I just had a hard time with it, which is just very annoying. I really wish that this was controlled with a D-pad or the circle pad. It would have been much more enjoyable, but no, they had to force the stylus into it, and that's why it's one of my least favorite minigames in all the Mario RPGs. A lot of people's least favorite minigame for Bowser's Inside Story is Gut Check, and obviously I don't think it's that fun, but I don't think it's terrible control-wise, which is why it's at number 5 and not at number 6. And yeah, I don't like this game either. Here's the first thing about it. My main problem with this whole minigame is that it just feels so pointless. For some reason, you have to finish the whole carrot in a minute? Not just finish the whole carrot in general. I don't get that part. And maybe if it was like getting the casual coral from Superstar Saga, where you had to finish the carrot in a certain amount of time, that I would have been fine with. But no, just for some reason, you just have to finish it in the certain amount of time, which just doesn't make sense. But the other thing about it is that the use of the stylus is obviously annoying, because since I have to use my finger, I'm constantly tapping and it's not super responsive, but it's not as bad as in the nose deck, so I'll at least let it slide. The other thing though is the power pellets, the things that just get rid of the whole bunch's carrot right away. If you don't get it right away, they just become powerless and useless, which is just very annoying, because that means you have to just waste more time just rapidly tapping carrot. And obviously the smaller they they get, the harder it is to tap them, which obviously goes back to you using the stylus. I don't like the gut check minigame, but at the very least, it controls okay, instead of it controlling just disasterly. So because of that, I don't dislike this minigame as much as Nose Deck. It's still not good though. Number 4 is the Rump Command, and I gotta say, this is actually a pretty good minigame. We talked about the games that I just really don't like. Now we're into the games that I really do enjoy. So the Rump Command, again, is a very enjoyable minigame. All you're really doing is just shooting electric adrenaline with Mario and Luigi, and it's very simple. I enjoy that, though, because it's very balanced. The controls feel good. I will say that it does feel a bit unfair in the second phase sometimes, but even then, I can't really complain. I do complain about one thing, and one thing only, though. So the Arm Center is the minigame that you play the most, but the difference with that minigame is that it changes up a bit. You play the Rump Command 4 times, but it never changes. So when you're on to the 3rd time you play, or the 4th time, it's just boring. You keep doing it, and it just gets really repetitive, which is just so disappointing. Especially because the giant battles in this game aren't really spread out that well. So because of this, it just feels very repetitive once you get to the 3rd one, which is just really sad. Again, it's an enjoyable minigame, but I do think they should have switched it up a bit more, kind of like they did with the Arm Center. The chest station is a really good concept. Every single time Mario and Luigi get shot into this, I guess Bowser's chest, he gets shoot up, and you get vertical height from it. But here's the thing about it. That's not the reason I actually enjoyed the game. The reason why I enjoy these minigames are, well, the minigames themselves. I think that they're very unique. You're fighting these 2 really tall piranha plants, and you're fighting Dark Bowser, which is just such a fun fight. When he runs into you, you lose a heart. When you guys both run into each other, you guys don't lose anything. You just get a really loud bang. When you run into him, he loses heart. It's very fun and it's very enjoyable. I will say that they're easy, but the piranha one is not easy because it has so much health. But it's really enjoyable, and you don't lose a ton of progress when you get hit, which is just so nice. I really enjoy the mini games themselves, but the reason why it's not at number 1 is because the controls for the chest station are, well, it's not great. It's not as bad as stuff like the Nose Deck or Gut Check, but I gotta say, it's not enjoyable because they use the stylus. And yes, I can get used to the controls. I think that these controls I can get used to easier than the 2 that I already mentioned. But I gotta say, it's still not great. Again, using the stylus for this was just not as enjoyable than just using a D-pad or buttons. It would have been so much more enjoyable if it was kind of like a mountain climbers game. But no, it's just using the stylus, which is again disappointing. But at the very least, the minigames themselves are very unique and pretty fun to play. I really enjoy the leg outpost minigame, but not for the reason that you're thinking. The main reason I actually enjoy them much more than the 4 that we've already talked about is for the unique attributes that this minigame actually brings. Well, first off, the first time that you do it, it's very simple, and there's a timer on there. Now, I did say that the timer on Gut Check was very annoying, and it did make sense for it to be there. But for this time, first off, the timer isn't really that much of a threat, but there actually is purpose for there being a timer. If the timer goes off, then the battery dies on the drill. That makes more sense. There's actually purpose on the timer, which that makes me more agreeable with the timer being there. Now again, I've never actually ran out with the timer. Like, it's a very easy minigame, so it's not actually possible for me to actually fail. But in general, I think at least purpose is something that makes this minigame better. But the second time you do the leg outpost minigame is to push the Fawful statue off the building in Bowser's castle. Here's the thing about this minigame. Before you start it, a ton of Bowser's minions that are brainwashed by Fawful it sucks because Bowser is fighting against his own minions, and then Bowser says probably one of my favorite lines in all of Bowser's Inside Story. He says, "Wake up, minions." I don't know what it is about that line, but it's so powerful in this circumstance. It's just, I mean, think about it. All of his minions are literally fighting against him, and they don't even know it. It's just really powerful, and it's really sad, because Bowser is kind of just getting desperate at this point, because he just realizes how terrible of a circumstance he's actually in. And obviously he wins, because again, it's an easy minigame, but there's just so much more, and more, and more minions that just come out to make it more and more difficult. I enjoy these minigames quite a bit, and it's mainly because, again, those small attributes that just make them a tiny bit better. That's why they're number 2. But, I mean, come on, you guys knew exactly what was going to be number 1. This mini game is so fun, and I know you're playing the arm center so much throughout the game. I think this is tied with the rump command of how many times you actually play the game. But the reason why I'm not actually tired of it or think it's actually repetitive is because when you go to the third time you're playing it, when you're in Dimple Woods, it switches. It completely changes the setup of the minigame, which makes it more difficult because you're not actually used to it. But also, I like the setup better, and it's also more difficult, which means, again, more fun. So because of this, the game's very simple. All you have to do is hit these electric balls with Mario and Luigi's hammer. That's all you have to do. But I gotta say, it's very satisfying, because it's just a rhythm minigame. You just have to hit them at the exact right time, and also the hammer sound with the electric balls is just so satisfying. I don't know what it is, maybe the echo from it. It's just sounding very cool, and I really enjoy that. And also, I really like the situations that you're put in when you have to play this minigame. My favorite one is that Bowser will be crushed by this giant cannonball, but you just have to power up his biceps to throw it back at the castle, which is a very creative situation. And it's very fun just to see Bowser about to get crushed, but no, he's not. He's just throwing this huge, it's basically like 10 times his size, back at his castle. It's very impressive, and again, it's a very unique situation. And these situations are just very fun to be thrown into. And that's why I really like the Arm Center. It's just very fun, and it's not even repetitive, even though you do it 4 times. That's really impressive to me. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will be on Bowser Inside Story, and I hope you guys did, of course, enjoy this video. And, of course, as well, I am still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before summer break hits. And we're actually about to hit 500 subscribers. I mean, we only need like 50 more, which is still a lot, but we're growing so much that we're gonna hit 500 in no time. So I really thank you guys for that. But, of course, if you're not subscribed yet, or you know a Mario RPG fan that isn't subscribed, please tell them to subscribe. I still appreciate every one of you guys that actually subscribe to the channel. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.